So thank you so much for arranging Megumi. It's really nice to be with you all. Boy, I don't know how many times I've been in Melbourne now. I've lost count. Ron knows. How many times, Ron? 10, 12? Teaching?
10,
yeah, probably, yeah. Yeah, but it's a story in terms of the introduction to the models that I use. And what I want to do is I want to go really deeply into the models. Please stop me at any point in time. It's a small group, which is really nice. Let's go deep into some of the analysis because I actually think it's a good model. At least I created it, so I got a little ego investment in it. So I'd love to share it with you. And it's basically a whole mechanism of how to understand and manage the change process. And so that's where we're going to focus. And the story is about 3 goats. Those 3 goats live on one side of a river. There's a little goat, a medium-sized goat, and a big goat. And if you can notice, on that side of the river, it's rocky, and it's, but goats like rocks. You know, it could be a little jagged, hilly, and stuff like that. Goats like those kind of areas. So the goats are happy on that side of the river. There's only one challenge with this side of the river. And that is that there's no food. If you think about it from a symbolic perspective, we're no longer nurtured. We're no longer supported. It's not feeding us anymore. So the goats on one side of the river, there's no food. They look across the river. And across the river, they see flowers and grass. Maybe there's some trees. And they think, yummy. There's food there. I want to cross the river. And the only way across the river is by a bridge. So this looks pretty simple so far. But there's one challenge. Underneath the bridge lives a troll. And the favorite food of that troll is goat. So that's our predicament. Do you remember the story as a kid? Mm-hmm. Okay, it was gender-wise inappropriate. It was about the 3 goats, remember? 3 billy goats, but 3 goats. So underneath the bridge lives the troll. So now if we think about this from a change mechanism just for a moment, the goats are in a rocky area which they like. The area is usual. It's familiar. It's known. It's also comfortable. Goats like it in that area. Now, if they're in that area and everything is doing well, there's absolutely no reason to change, or everything is looking good. For me, there's only 2 mechanisms that I know about that create change. The one mechanism I know about is that the goats become disturbed. Disturbance is a key mechanism of change. If you ever want to grow, create a big disturbance in your life. Have you noticed? Yeah. Okay. Sometimes they're not so pleasant because they happen to us. Sometimes we decide, something occurs, there's a disturbance, and we change. Or you might find that you're doing some kind of work and you're no longer satisfied. A disturbance comes along. So the one mechanism I know about that creates change is disturbance. There's a second mechanism that I know about. And the second mechanism I know about is attraction. The 2 things are happening simultaneously in the story. The goats are disturbed because there's no food on that side of the river. And they look across the river and they see the flowers and the trees and the grass. And they think, yummy, we want to go across there and eat. Now, if you're in a change process where you have both, you're lucky. Mostly you either just get disturbed, or if you're really fortunate, you just get attracted. Say you're doing great work, someone comes along and offers you the job of your lifetime. You're happy where you are, but you got to go. Or no disturbance. Can everyone see that? It's still disturbing because the change process itself is an upheaval of that which is familiar, but it's not so bad. The other option that occurs is that you're just disturbed. Suddenly you come along, you get to your desk, or you wake up one morning and your major client has just sent you an email saying, Stephen, we've had a change in strategy and you're no longer needed. And you think, oh, and that might be bad. Or your partner sends you an email. That's worse. It depends if you like your partner or not. So you can see that there's degrees of disturbances, illnesses of disturbances. Now, what's interesting about our relationship to disturbances is almost invariably when I'm disturbed, I try and get rid of the disturbance. If you have a cold, we don't think, I have a cold, what's in the cold? Why am I getting a cold? You think, okay, take some medicine, let's get rid of it. Lots of vitamin C, etc. Now, I remember a little while ago, I had a cold and or flu, and I went to bed, and I felt relief. I felt, oh, this is so nice, just lying around in bed for a day or two. Anyone had that? Oh, what a pleasure. It's a pity I'm sick in order to get to do this. In other words, the sickness took me to somewhere that I needed, that I couldn't do by myself. So frequently, disturbers come because they have an important message for us. And that often, if we're able to understand the message rather than try and get rid of the disturber, it awakens us to tremendous opportunity and change. But it's a discipline not to just look at disturbers as to be got rid of, but disturbers as opportunities for profound transformation, because it's outside of the box. Can everyone see that? So the key is, attractors is easier because if you're drawn, you want to explore. But disturbances are harder. So those two change mechanisms for me are key in the process of change. So if we think about it, here's our usual way of being. On the other side of the river is that which wants to emerge. It's our emerging identity. That which wants to emerge. And that central piece over there is this magical area that all of us know about, and yet very few of us really consciously are aware of it. It's called the edge. And the edge is the invisible boundary between that which is known and that which wants to emerge. Now, this edge is really, really interesting because, you see, when things get interesting, all of us know about it. So I'll give you an example. I was in Perth Airport a couple of days ago. I had a superb trip. I decided, I brought my sweetheart with me, and I'd never been up to the Kimberleys. So I thought, I'm going to go up north. So I went up north. I went to Darwin and then Arnhem Land, and then I cut across. Anyway, we were in Broome, and we went down. Eventually, we had a four-wheel drive. It was a great Gibb River Road. Has anyone done that? Yeah. It's a great trip, huh? Magical. It's fantastic. It's a harsh environment, though. There's lots of flies. If you don't like being bitten by flies, you shouldn't go. I'm not sure you will like it, but it was an incredible trip, just incredibly beautiful. Anyway, I was in Perth Airport, and I'm hanging out, and suddenly this alarm goes. I've never had it before in an airport. It says, alert, alert, alert. You know, this is serious, whatever, there's something being investigated. And I noticed people woke up. Now, everyone was looking at each other. Well, what's going on around here? There's no major gunfire or anything. There's an alert. Then suddenly it says, evacuate the building. So we were in the middle. We were about to board. Evacuate the whole airport. They evacuated the whole. Has anyone been in that? It's really interesting, isn't it? So I'm looking at everyone else because I'm thinking, how are people responding? Now, because there was no major drama, no one was in panic. There was no guns. No one was in panic. And everyone just walked out of the building. But there was an awakeness. You kind of feel like you're on an edge. You know, there's something new that's occurring. There's an awakeness. There's an alertness. We're actually in something new. Or, for example, and the example I often give is, I don't know who doesn't like to sing. Megumi, can I use you for a second? Okay. If I ask, for example, Megumi if she would sing for the group now, I know it's artificial. So, Megumi, will you sing for the group? No. Okay. But you notice the energy in the group has gone up. You see, no one knows how hard I'm going to push Megumi to sing, right? But this is getting interesting. So if you were going to sleep before, we stop going to sleep because we're beginning to hang out at the edge. Because this is not quite known. Megumi, does anyone know you're singing except for the shower?
No, not really.
Right. So can you see what's happening? We're beginning to play around something which is unusual. So over the edge has a lot more energy. So often when I ask people, I often say, how are you doing? And they say, I'm tired. And I'll say, what are you tired of? Because sometimes it's just fatigue. But sometimes it's a tiredness of a certain way of being. Can everyone see that? And often when we move into new expressions or new forms or something outside of our usual box, it's actually invigorating. So the key that I'm really looking at now is this edge has a huge amount of energy. And the reason it has a huge amount of energy is because of the troll. And that troll is all of the beliefs, all of the values, all of the attitudes, all of the structures and forms that keep us in our usual way of being. So, if, for example, I ask Megumi to sing, and her usual way of being is not to sing publicly, the troll will come up and say, but you can't sing. Can anyone see that? That's a belief. Or you don't know how to do that. Or are you going to be okay doing it? So this whole troll system pops up, and it's designed for two functions basically. The first thing it's designed to do is maintain. For example, if I said, Megumi, will you take your clothes off? It's not a good idea. You know what I mean? Not good for me, not for good Megumi. I'm not sure if it's good for anyone else either. But for sure, it's not the right thing to do. In other words, the troll socializes us. Can everyone see that? It allows us to have appropriate ways of being. It maintains certain things. It maintains an identity. And to that degree, it's useful. But it does something else, which is really important. It limits us. So, for example, if you're a kid, and remember as a kid, I remember when I was a kid, I don't remember the exact moment, but someone must have said, Stephen, what's wrong with you? You're dumb. And you don't have to say it often. And you take these things in. Or someone says, you don't look good, or where do you get such a weird nose from? Or are you going bald? Or whatever it might be. It's very easy to take things in, and Freud had a name for it. It's called introjection. You integrate into yourself beliefs, values, and attitudes that are external, and you take them on, and then you begin to act according to those limiting beliefs. So suddenly our world gets smaller because of beliefs we have of what we're capable of doing or not, what we're capable of being or not, how we appear, how we present, how we relate, how we engage, and what's possible for us. And the possibilities of our being decrease. And as they decrease, we become smaller and we become more limited. Can anyone see that? And so this troll is very dangerous. The biggest problem with the troll is not only what happens to us in our childhood or in our experiences. The problem is these things become invisible and we don't even know they exist anymore. So let me give you the impact of it. Let's take, for example, gender. So as guys in the room, we might not be always conscious of the privileges by virtue of being a man. What I do know is that we tend to get more centrality, we get paid more. I don't know if that's true in Australia, in the States for sure it is. We get paid more, there's more opportunities, we get perceived to know more than women, etc., etc. Now, if you're a woman and you're in a world that from your first day, a message comes, you're less than, subtle ways, you're less than, you're less than. Can you see the potential for introjection? So you introject that value, I'm less than. That belief, I'm less than. And then what happens is you're constantly having to fight your inner world as well as the outside world before you even start performing. Can everyone see that? And if you're not conscious of it, you shrink and become less than without even realizing that you're not living up to all of who you can possibly be. And often it comes to a point where we don't even know it exists anymore. And that's the devastation, is we're smaller than we can be, and we don't even know that that occurs. So all of the isms, whether it's racism, sexism, homophobia, classism, nationalism, whatever this junk is, all what Trump stands for, okay? All of that junk is devastating once we internalize it. Because it's all about the repression of and the self-limiting of situations. Never mind the psychological impacts that each of us endured. So there's a whole lot of stuff. I remember working in South Africa with black folks, and the work that has to occur internally just to be at a level playing field is just huge in itself, and I'm sure many people know this. And by the way, it's not just the isms, it's not just the gender, it could be a personal experience in childhood too. So there's a lot of mechanisms which decrease power and rank and make our world much smaller. And all of these become invisible. And that's the devastation of these. How am I doing? Let me think. Where are we? Okay. Let me see where I'm going now. Let me just see. I want to sorry, just give me a second. I want to see what happens next. Okay, not there. Okay. Okay. So we know that the trolls now have two functions. They maintain, which can be useful. Don't take your clothes off in public unless you want to take your clothes off in public. And can you see that it's limiting? It maintains an identity, it maintains a perception, etc., and a presentation. But it's limiting because many of these beliefs and values keep us smaller than who we are. So the question now is, how do we manage this whole mechanism? The little goat decides, I'm hungry enough, it's time to cross the bridge. So eventually, change occurs when you're disturbed enough. You know, if you want to change your job and you think, okay, it's time to retire, and then you think, you can't retire, you don't have enough money, or time to change jobs. What am I going to do about a job? So can you see that immediately, as soon as we have a thought outside of the box, the troll jumps up. You know, what are you going to do about money? Now that's probably a healthy troll. It says, what are you going to do about money? So the first job we can do is we can negotiate with the troll. We can say, well, what are you worried about? It says, well, you don't have enough money. How are you going to live? I might say, well, why don't I stay in the job a little longer, save a little, so that I have a buffer, for example. So can you see you're negotiating with the troll? So little goat says, I'm hungry enough, I'm disturbed enough, I need to go. So the goat starts heading for the bridge. Little goat starts heading for the bridge, and then the goat sees the troll and says, actually, I've changed my mind, I'm not that hungry anymore. Now, have you ever noticed that you're about to do something and you change your mind? Anyone been there? Oh, no, I don't really need to do that. And you cycle, and you cycle. This cycling, if you see with your clients or you notice in yourself, the cycling process, you're at an edge. You're approaching the edge, you're at this edge, and you can't quite go over, and you go round. Now, so the little goat comes back, but he's disturbed, or she's disturbed. You got to get over the bridge. I'm hungry, I need food. If the disturbance is strong enough, the goat decides to cross. So often disturbances create change in ways that nothing else can, because at some point in time, there's a preparedness to actually address something which is way over the edge for us. So the little goat goes to the bridge, sees the troll. The troll says, yummy, my breakfast. Little goat says, don't eat me. This is a negotiation, by the way. Not a very nice negotiation, but it is. Don't eat me. There's yummier, juicier goats just behind me. So the troll looks and says, all right, you can go. So the little goat crosses the bridge and starts eating. Second goat comes along and does the exact same thing. Says to the troll, don't eat me. Again, a negotiation works. Now, there's many ways of working with the troll. Negotiation sometimes is a really good one. The third goat comes along. Now, what's really interesting for me about this third goat in the story is that if you start doing something enough times, it gets less scary. Have you noticed? So you might be afraid of doing something or being something. You try it, you think, wow, I did it. The second time you think, wow, I did it again. Third time you say, yeah, I've done it before. You notice? The troll loses its power. If you're able to cross the bridges that you need to cross, and remember some are maintenance, you don't want to cross them, but if you're able to cross the bridges that are limiting you, the trolls lose their power. So what happens in this case is the goat crosses the bridge. The troll jumps up, says, yummy, I've been waiting for you a long time, I'm going to eat you. But you see, the troll isn't as powerful symbolically anymore. And the goat is big. The goat says, no, you won't, and butts the troll. The troll falls into the water and drowns. And the goat crosses the water and lives happily ever after on the other side.